my value for a lot of times when I was presented, it was by who I was. So, oh, you're the daughter from da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I needed to get out of that mind, like push myself to enter to this worlds where I wanted to just be there because I enjoy their relationship. For example, where I live, I could be living with a bunch of people here and I wouldn't know what's happening in their house. And then suddenly they leave because they're bankrupt. In the United States, you don't see people struggle because they're not showing it, or you don't, superficially it's not showing. And then you see your neighbor file bankruptcy, and then they get, the house, and then suddenly this disappeared. I was like, it's very deceiving because you don't really know what's happening to your neighbor.
And it even goes beyond financial. I mean, like, you don't know emotionally, psychologically what's happening within that family system, to be honest.
We have this idea that we're less ignorant than the people that don't go to school, like that mindset of like, well, I went to school, so I'm not that ignorant, or I'm very literate. I've learned that ignorance at its best, it's everywhere. Meaning like you could be highly well educated and you could also be very ignorant.
Welcome to the Hello Moxie podcast, where we uncover the untold stories of women who changed history and spotlight the voices of women shaping the future. Here, we don't just celebrate resilience, we build it. In each episode, we share stories and strategies that help women, especially in underrepresented industries, find their voice, step into fear, and lead with Moxie.
Hello and welcome to Hello Moxie. Today, I'm so delighted. I am joined by the amazing Marta Fernandez, who is like the best partner to have conversation with because she has amazing ideas. And we were just chatting before the show started, and she was sharing this just like amazing, insights that she had about, sheesh, I don't even know how to dive into it, Marta, but you were talking about how so often when we come from a place of privilege, it can be hard for us to see and understand, or maybe not hard, but like we compartmentalize or we separate ourselves from the suffering that's going on in the world, almost as a way to protect ourselves. And so Marta was just sharing all this insight, and I was like, we got to start recording because this is juicy. So we're going for it. And I would just love for Marta, for you to tell our listeners kind of like, I love your experience. Maybe you can tell our listeners kind of like what your childhood was like and how that kind of informs how you show up in the world and some of these questions that you were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. So, hi, everybody. My name is Marta. I was born in Costa Rica. I'm adopted. My parents are from Nicaragua. I say that with very happiness. I think adoption is a very particular conversation. We could talk about that other day. But my parents from Nicaragua, they are entrepreneurials. I come from a very privileged life where my parents work very hard. That typical parents 24/7 out, provide the kids. Grew up in a very loving family, very balanced, Catholic, very conservative in a lot of aspects, which also pushed the way I view things because I was very challenging in just the whole idea of religion and how it shaped us. And so my parents moved to Costa Rica because a civil war back in the 70s, 80s in Nicaragua. And they decided to go back to Nicaragua when they had the chance to. My dad had a job opportunity to work for a corporate, and he took it. And that was their dream. Their dream was to go back to their home country. And and I lived there until I was like 18 years old. And my mom is a teacher. My dad is a businessman. My mom's idea and dream was to put an own school. So we have a private school that they work on. It's a full-on school. It's like from kindergarten to high school. I've seen the work that they have done. I've seen the efforts, what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to sacrifice, and also as a kid to be there for your parents. So after school, I would say help. I didn't help. I will make more mess in the school, so I will try to help my mom, try to prep the school for the next day, because there was no money to really provide hire people to assist at the beginning of the stage. So I grew up with that world where you help your parents to, build that school. But at the same time, they let us be a kid. So I never have to worry about anything. They will provide us. But I come from my family that my parents were poor or humble beginnings. So my mom's side, my mom has 12 brothers and sisters in total. My dad's side were 9, and they have their own stories that somehow meshed or bleed into my upbringing, because they taught us to be humble. It doesn't matter if you have a lot in your plate. It doesn't matter if you have little in your plate. You always have to learn how to serve and assist others, regardless of your circumstances. And sometimes you need to be mindful of how you serve and provide. In a third world country, one of the things that you always will see is the drastic difference of lifestyle. So imagine if you are in a comfortable couch, warm, a cup of coffee, you get up and you go to the fridge and you have whatever you want to eat. Or you have a maid that you tell her, hey, can I, which I grew up this way. Hey, I would like to have some pancakes. Can you do me some pancakes? Always with respect. Always treat them with respect, because they're, at the end of the day, they're humans and they're part of your family. They end up actually taking care of you and becoming your second mom, oddly enough. And so imagine that world where you don't have to think about anything more than just go to school, pick up your bags, make sure that you have good grades. That was my work, basically. That's what my parents taught me. At the moment that you step out of your house, there's another person, a kid like your age, and that person doesn't have shoes, and if they do, they're very humble, very, they need a new pair of shoes. You could see they're distressed because maybe they're hungry. You could see their moms carrying the kid's bag, running to get the bus. Meanwhile, you're in a car with AC and it's hot. Imagine that third world country where you see that drastic. It's just in front of your face. Like, you cannot deny that your neighbor is it's someone who is struggling. How could you go about this? How do you accept that reality that coexists in a country? And I think that brought my idea of understanding that we coexist all the time with multiple realities. And something that I learned with this was that people who are very humble tend to give way more. So we would go to give food and presents for the community where my maids were. They had a small community. There were like, I don't know, 100 kids. So my mom always in Christmas was like, okay, we're gonna buy some stuff. We will go there, and we will spend time with these kids, the community. And one time, I don't know, I was hungry. I don't know what it was. And I was like, I'm hungry. I need to go pee. I was very uncomfortable. Of course, I was a teenager. What do you expect, right? You're like, I don't want to be here. But I remember this very vividly. A lady came to my mom, said, Miss Lucia, that's my mom's name. I have some beans and some cheese and some tortillas, guys. If you come in and sit down with us and eat. It's not much, but I'm like, how can you not feel your heart melt? At that moment, someone so simple, so humble provides you with the best that they can offer you and sits down and share a meal with you. How can you not notice how loving that is, and how inviting that is, and how it doesn't matter how much you have, just just that little thing, and you were able to share with other human, forever touched my soul. So I grew up with that world, but I was very privileged because I have traveled. I have never paid education. My parents always supported me with my education. My parents always, at this point of age, if I decide to put a business school or business or whatever, my dad will be my number one. Be like, okay, we'll make it work, right? But I also know when my parents struggle. They were very transparent with that aspect. Like, money's tight. We need to, put our buckles, and we need to focus on money. We need to be very mindful. And the whole idea of money doesn't come out of trees. It comes from sweat, comes from not sleeping, comes from never ending. You don't see the struggles because I'm chilling from you. Like, they were very honest of like, you're not seeing the whole picture. And so I grew up with that reality, the reality that there's multiple realities. And even though you're privileged, that's just one part of life, and acknowledging that you are just as worthy as that person who's in the street. You are as worthy, and they are as worthy as you are. They're valuable human beings, and you should not look at them or differently just because they don't have the brands that you have. And just acknowledge that actually today you have money and then tomorrow you don't. How do you survive with nothing? How we are able to adapt when you don't have no longer the $100K, and now you have to live in a $1 per day. Like, in third world countries, people live under $1 per day, just to give you an idea. So sense of community, it's all about that in third world countries. I think that's another one. Like, you need to be able to support your system for the community to grow, for people to grow. You need to give back to the community, and maybe it's not by money. Maybe it's by spending time educating them, sharing knowledge, giving them school stuff. Like, there's ways to go about it. So yeah, I mean,
Oh, so much to unpack there. I have so many questions about that. Like, my first question is, how did your experience? So, to give you some context, I grew up very privileged. So, upper middle class family. My come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I lived in I will say I grew up middle class in a middle class neighborhood, but I never really experienced, food insecurity or not knowing when my next meal was going to come from. I always had shoes I could wear. And the people that were in my world and in my orbit were at the same socioeconomic level as I was, which I think is fairly common in the United States, where we usually associate with people who are the same. That's who we see every day, is the people who are the same socioeconomic status as us. So it was just very interesting for you to share this image of like you kind of like being at the upper class level in your country and going outside and directly integrating with people who are much lower in terms of like their socioeconomic status. How did you interact with them on a day-to-day basis? Like, were they your friends? Like, did you have friends in the neighborhood that you played with that maybe were a lot more food insecure or whatever than you were? And what was that interaction like? Like, did you ever feel any sorts of guilt or shame that you were in a different place than them?
Good question. So I will say there's two phases in my life. The first phase is my elementary. It was meh. So I went to privileged school, and I will hang out with people with my same wealth. But I did realize I was different when I started seeing my peers bully or made fun of other people's behavior. Like, they will be like in social economic the same status, but maybe the other girl was more a tomboy. She likes to play and I will stand up like, dude, like, take a chill pill, like, let her be. So sometimes in my elementary world, I would always stand to the other side. I was like, anybody that's been bullied for no reason, I mean, no, we're not like. And it's not like I thought it was bullying. I just felt unfair that you were just excluding this person because she doesn't like the same Barbies that you like, or because she likes playing ball and you don't like playing. Like, that's no. But I think when things start changing for me, is when is when my mom kicked me out. When my mom pushed me to go to her school. That is something else to unpack, because moving from a private school where I had my own world and to my mom's school, that was sixth grade, sixth grade. So starting sixth grade, and I finished. I was the first graduate class from my mom's school. Just to give you an idea, I was the guinea pig, to be more specific. But that set a tone, because in my mom's school, there were different type of students with different type of backgrounds. So because the school was new, my mom has always this idea that education should be affordable, education should be for everybody, and we don't discriminate. We don't discriminate based on their religion. We don't discriminate based on anything. So she was if we could make a pay plan, and especially because it was growing, so it was more flexibility to go about it. And that's when I started meeting people from other classes. The one that I remember vividly, and my brothers made fun of me, it was a girl that she lived in the hood. That you had to pass a terrible hood to go to her hood. And my brother's like, you're not gonna go, you're not gonna get stabbed there if you go there. Like, they would make fun, like my brothers, I mean, brothers. And I'm like, dude, what a piece of art you are. But then once you get out of that idea of where they live and you go to their houses, they're no different. I was like legit. It was they provide me food. They take care of me like I was part of their family. Actually, they'll probably show more love than other places. The parents were very attentive. They support each other. Like, I'm talking about a place where the streets were not paved. Just to give you an idea, the house is. It's built in you can see the building in processes, right? Like this was a little house, and you go to the little house, but they were so grateful. So the dad was a businessman that has buses, so he rented buses for schools. And I think I don't remember the mom exactly what she does, but they were very kind. They were from the Caribbean side, so they were Black. Let's add that to the table, and how people perceive Black people back home, which is not as compared to, by the way, here. But that was okay, they're not from the capital. They come from another cultural environment, Caribbean environment, so they have different mannerisms as well. And that's when I start building more relationship with more people that are more social, economical, different than me. And I didn't care, to be honest. The one thing I kind of hated it is that this is going to sound terrible, is that people judged me because I had money. So I needed to prove myself to people that were more humble, that I was just as them because I had money. So there was always the narrative of, oh, it's okay, your mom will pay for it. I'm like, what are you talking about? My mom doesn't grow up. Money doesn't come out of the trees. And I was like, even still, my parents don't splurge like that. That's not a thing. They teach me the value of money. So I needed to prove myself that I was humble and kind and accepting to be entered to the world. I didn't want to. They were like, "Oh, you're a snob." There's this relationship between social classes where, oh no, like, you don't care about poor people. You think you're better. I'm like, what are no? I don't think I'm better than you. I like you because of who you are. I'm not. And sometimes people take advantage, because then they'll be like, well, you could pay it. And I'm like, no, I cannot pay. Oh, and, they put you like, they use you as your spending machine. But I learned how to say boundaries. So I'll be like, I was very honest, like, no, we're not. I'm not. I needed to start straightening up of like, yes, I can come from a place where you could come to my house. My doors are open. And but I'm not, I don't have money. If I died today, I have nothing to give people, because I don't have, my parents have money. I don't have money. And so being with these people open this dilemma of why people see me a certain way. They call me preppy. Oh, like, and it happened all the time. It's like, oh, the preppy friend from ta 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 is coming. Oh, and they will not even necessarily acknowledge me by my name, but rather by my parents. The
Oh,
the
interesting.
the the daughter of the school.
Mm,
So my value for a lot of times when I was presented, it was by who I was. So, oh, you're the daughter from da 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 da. Uh,
yeah.
and I was like, I needed to get out of that mind, like push myself to enter to this worlds where I wanted to just be there because I enjoy their relationship in general. And there was a lot of times where people did that to me. But when you talk about your question, how do I felt with, that dynamics? A good example would be trips. My family has a beach house that I always grew up, very humble house. It was my uncle's house, super simple, but that was a beach house where I like to go all the time. And when I was start going 17, 18 years old and stuff like that, I would tell my friends, hey, let's go out to the beach house. And we go like in a couple of cars and we could go. By the way, I never had a car, and my parents never gave me a car. I got my driver license when I was 20, people, by the way. So don't think my parents paid me for any car. That was a no-go. Uh, they rather hold me, taking me to places than me driving. That was a completely no. But when these moments come, when you start introducing travel plans with people who are less, right?
Mhm.
I did the okay, let's put a budget for food, for, like, let's figure out how much people were willing. So sometimes we did money. 50, who can, let's do a standard $50 or $20, or everybody puts $20. We could figure it out. And how much that works, we'll buy, and we'll figure out something on the way. Other times, people don't have money, and so what we did was, okay, what can you bring from your house? Some rice. Okay, let's bring some
Mhm.
rice. Some beans. Let's bring some beans, right? Of course, because of my privilege of having money, I was able to provide more, and not in the aspect of me showing off, rather than what is it that we're missing, like something, not a need but a want. Like, what do we want? Do we want some, like, beers? Do we want some cake? Like, what is it that we cannot afford because there's no. And I try to fill those gaps. Or when people will be like, hey, can I bring a friend, but she doesn't have anything to provide. I'm like, yeah. I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
like, if you could bring a friend, like, we will make it's 2 tacos for each person instead of 3 tacos. I don't know, like, we will figure it out. And I
Mhm.
think that then that's when people start seeing me as me,
Yeah.
rather than the person that is the owner of a school.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, interesting. So like this interesting experience you had of like kind of bridging socioeconomic classes, it seems like you were able to see kind of like both sides of the coin on both within both. Like what did you notice most about like what brought like what were some of the stresses and challenges? I mean, clearly like food security sounded like one of them, but like what were some of the stresses and challenges that you saw from your friends versus the stresses and challenges that you had at home that were different than theirs?
I think that number one would be uh payment for schools. So, like, a lot of times people wouldn't say, actually they wouldn't even say this, but they would be like, parents will be struggling to pay the school, and
Mhm.
sometimes they would have to miss parts.
Mhm.
And actually, if I can put a parenthesis on this, because I want to share something
Yeah.
uh, that I recently found out. A couple of years ago, I was living in Costa Rica, and I re-met a friend who was in my mom's school. He was like a year below me. Like, if I was in 11th grade, he was in 10th grade. Great guy. He was from Costa Rica, and we were like reconnect. And he told me something that I thought I was aware of everything, but I didn't. He told me this. you remember that time where I left school? I'm like, yeah, but my sister stayed. I'm like, yeah, that was because my parents were having struggle with money.
Mm.
Remember when I used to go all the time to Alejandra's house? I'm like, yeah, I remember. Like, I thought you guys were just BFF. Yeah, but also my mom and her mom got into agreement that they could provide us for some food. And I'm like here thinking, it's like, wait, what? Are you kidding me? And that's like, that hit me straight. Like, I thought I was very intuitive of what's happening around me. And back then, zero idea that this guy friend was struggling. Um, and not to mention that I don't, my parents didn't also disclose. So that's a part of it. Like even though my parents knew about certain things, they will just, again, that's not something for me to know, right? It's I'm a teenager. That's not your business. And so I was very shocked because I knew that one of the struggles was not paying school. I just didn't know how close it was to me. So you will hear, do you know da 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 da? He stopped going to school because his mom he couldn't afford it. Oh, that sucks. But one thing is hearing from people's, from other schools. Another thing is like being in your school and you didn't notice. I think the other thing it was the struggles and challenges. There is their emotional and mental mindset. So meanwhile, you're here trying to figure out what to wear. I realized they were more mature and trying to plan. So there was nothing like, let me go with the flow. They were the challenge of constantly trying to plan ahead, trying to plan their career. Like if I go here, if I do that, if I go to this university, this is like teenager going to grad school. Starting having those conversations. We talk also a lot about political conversations back then, and so even how they view politics, they're like, well, if we have this president or we have this help us da da da, and they were seeking things that I didn't understand. In terms for the government, like like, well, they don't have money, they would need a government that assists them or provide programs that they can help assist them to go. So those are things that I feel like they were challenging, but I think mostly their mindset. Because once money's not there in the table and you move past that conversation about money, their preoccupations or what puts them on unease are how I'm gonna make money for my parents. How do I'm gonna make sure that I can help my mom or my dad, or how could I plan to my school? I want to go to school. My mom doesn't have money, but I want to go to this school. How could I pay my tuition? Um, and in the midst of
Okay.
everything, they also think about other people.
Well, they're thinking about other people right there. That was so interesting to me because you think about the difference, like these children coming of age, they're concerned about their parents and taking care of their parents, which in our own society, it's the complete reverse. Like in America, when a child is 17, 18, 19 years old, it's the parents that are thinking about how can I set my child up for success? How can I take care of them? How can I make sure that they go to a good school? And the child is so protected and so taken care of here, that they don't even have to think about those kind of like real life challenging questions and think outside themselves a little bit
I,
more.
I kind of disagree because
Oh, I love it. I've been waiting for the disagreement, Marta.
I kind of disagree. I
Yeah.
think in America, you have the same thing that I see, like in that
Mm,
third world country. It's just not
okay.
in your world. So, for example, especially like in the Latin community that I have tend to
Yeah.
experience here, a lot of people were like, oh, well, I need to go help my mom after school because I need to get some money so I can support. So there, you still have the
Mm,
storyline.
yeah.
It's just we don't hear it as often, um
Mm,
and so also there's a shame. There is a shame if in growing up in the United States, it's like well, if you go to work, if you're 16 years old, because you guys are allowed to work here at 16, not back home. Back home, that's not a thing. Like if you are working at 16 years old, it's because you're broke. Like you're poor, and you really need to help your parents. But nobody back home works just cause. Here, oddly enough, people work because parents push them. Hey, you need to start working. Go to McDonald's. Da, da, da. So there's a different dynamics, but the difference is how kids use their money. Kids use their money here mostly for, or it's been viewed for the things that they want. Like, oh, you want that bicycle? Okay, you have to work for it. But I also have found that in poor communities that people forget, like trailer communities, or I'm talking about like very low, poor people that people just completely forget that they're even existing in America. Um, they work to pay the bills for their parents, especially if there's a disability. I've learned how people who with disability, parents with a disease or something, their kids become their caregivers, and they become so crucial to that element that the kid no longer becomes a kid; it becomes an adult, and then you have this back and forth. Or when you grow to a dysfunctional life, family dynamics, where the kids tries to become the parents. Those are things that happen just like in Nicaragua. Parent kids try to, the difference, I would say the difference is in Nicaragua, parents will tell their kids, this is not your job. I've heard that conversation. I've heard the conversation when a parents tell my friends, like, you don't have to worry about it. This is not for you. This is my responsibility. I'm the parent. In the United States, I think it's a bit different. I think in the United States, I've not, in my personal experience, I've never heard parents saying no when the kids provide support. Especially, I'm making an assumption because the reality is I haven't necessarily experienced that, but I do know that especially in Latino community, my community, and maybe other minorities, when they're in that stage, kids will step up and they will work for their parents, and that's why they do the whole the importance of in the United States you can have like the whole what's it called, the food stamps. You have support from the government at a certain degree, but I've learned that there are similarities. It's not in our scope.
Yeah, I'm not exposed to it as much. Like I live in my little bubble. My bubble is like, the Ashburn, Virginia bubble. And everyone here is like has a very good, strong, good white collar job, everyone.
But can I say something though? But is it so? I was talking about this to someone. It's like in the United States, everything is seamless. It's not. For example, where I live, I could be living with a bunch of people here, and I wouldn't know what's happening in their house, and then suddenly they leave because they're bankrupt. In the United States, you don't see people struggle because they're not showing it, or you don't,
Oh
it's
yeah.
superficially, it's not showing. And then you see your neighbor file bankruptcy, and then they get the house, and then suddenly this disappeared. I was like, it's very deceiving because you don't really know what's happening to your neighbor. Like
Yeah.
you see
And
you.
yeah, and it even goes beyond financial. I mean, like you don't know emotionally, psychologically what's happening within that family system, to be
Yeah.
honest. You don't know about the power imbalances that are maybe happening or the abuse that may be happening in that home because abuse happens across all, socioeconomic class systems. So, that was like my childhood. I grew up in a very upper middle class, you know, family. On the outside looked great, but my father was very emotionally, psychologically abusive. So like, and people wouldn't know that unless you're in that system. So I think you're right. Like there is a lot of things that maybe people don't see or aren't aware that's really happening, even beyond the financial situation within these families. So yeah.
But I think that the first component that when this conversation particularly, because we start
Yeah.
when we're talking about compartmentalizing
Yeah.
your reality. Like you need to kind of like separate yourself for you to not feel that bad. Basically,
Mm.
you're like, well, how could I enjoy this ice cream when when my neighbor doesn't have water? I mean, that
Yeah.
I'm laughing, but because but that's a terrible, but it's actually true. Like, how could I enjoy this ice cream that it cost me $4 when my neighbor doesn't have water? And I was like, and everybody does this. This is the funny thing. Everybody does, especially if you go to a vacation. And vacation, it could be 5 minutes from your house, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You can name it. You go somewhere else that you don't know, right? And you're exploring. Meanwhile you're eating that ice cream, you're entering to a bubble or a reality that you don't even have idea you're stepping in. And then you like, well, I need to compartmentalize because I need to enjoy my ice cream. I don't want to think about my $4 instead of me buying 4 bottled waters for a kid. Like I'm just saying, like everybody does this. It's just to the degree of awareness of like how aware are you. And I agree with you that money is just one aspect of how bad things can be. And the mental and emotional abuse in the houses and everything that comes by, it's so impressive because I feel like here is more deceiving. Here it's like a gas.
Yes. That's a good way to think about it. It is.
It's a gas. I cannot see. I cannot. If even if I wanted it to slightly be more aware of my surroundings, I can't. The people don't let you.
Yeah.
Versus back home, people are okay with showing you like, hey, this is it, this is it.
Yeah. It is tricky though to think about it. Like when you are traveling, like it's, it's human and humane to find joy in life, to find moments of joy, to experience pleasure, like that is, in accordance with our values. So like, you know, how do you balance your enjoyment of that ice cream cone, which is a very like, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to enjoy the ice cream cone, like if you've earned that and you want to have that pleasurable experience. But to your point, like, how do you balance that out with the awareness and the understanding that other people can't afford that ice cream cone? That's a larger question. That's a harder question to answer. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you reconcile that? How can you balance your own, you know, desire for pleasure and the natural, as humans that we want to have to be curious, to
Mm,
explore the world, to like develop our own uh like traveling, for example, is a beautiful way to educate yourself. Like it's a massive education. So like, and that education is helpful in so many ways in terms of what you can offer to your family and to society. So like it's like this balance of like you can't I feel like you can't remove all sense of curiosity and pleasure and enjoyment and satisfaction and the sense of like, well, I worked hard, I earned this, you know but like, so I guess my question is, how do you, I don't know, how do you balance that with the reality of what's happening for so many people in the world when the majority of people in this world are living in, not as great circumstances.
I think this is what I do. Now you just you were talking, I was like thinking about it. It's like, how do I do this?
Mhm.
um I think just by doing things every day with the sense of service.
Mm,
Okay,
mhm,
so hear me out. If you're a
mm,
businessman, you have your own business, yes, you are for profit. You are aimed to gain profit, right?
mhm.
I'm a woman, I'm gonna put a business, and my aim is to gain profits. But and you want to enjoy that. You want to go buy that nice ice cream, go buy that nice ice cream. But in the meantime, you need to spend maybe 10 days. I'm just going to give a random number to work very hard for you to earn that ice cream. because you don't have the money. So you're gonna work, 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 and then the day comes, you're like, okay, I finally got my ice cream. I'm gonna eat my ice cream. But, and this is something that we talked before, in the journey, in the process of getting that money to get your ice cream, you serve to your community, to people that help you get that dollar for your ice cream. I think that reduces the self of guiltness and self of egocentric vibes, or like, oh, it's just me, 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 me. But if you know that you're working for $1 for your ice cream, and you also are self helping out the people that give you that dollar, like, meaning, like, like, let's do a trade-off. I will help you, meanwhile you help me get my dollar. Why not? Win-win, right? In this case, if you put it in a business world, let me help my employees. Let me be more tangible here. Let me help my employees by ensuring that they have the right resources, they have a safe place, they feel comfortable, they feel belong, they feel heard. And then that dollar that you got, that you're gonna get your ice cream, is not guilty, because you did your hard work, but you did not think only about you. You also, in the way of getting that dollar, you work hard and you assist other communities, you assist other people.
Yeah.
Personal. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's exactly how I feel as a business owner. Like for me, it brings me great pleasure knowing that I'm creating something that's providing a source of not just employment, but satisfaction for the people that work on the team. Like
Yeah.
that's one of the core reasons I want to own a business, is to be able to create something that will help other people grow, that they can find joy in doing, but also gives them financial security in some way.
Yeah.
Like it brings me deep satisfaction. Like, yeah, in so many ways.
And that's how you balance the emotional guilt, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
when you eat that ice cream for $4. In a personal perspective, meaning you're not an owner. For people who, they're not an owner, they're just
Yeah.
human employees. If you are at work, or you live your life where you assist your neighbor, or you assist anybody that needs assistance, or you try to provide any sort of aid where you feel that is needed,
Mm,
that's how you start reducing that guilt filled, because you said,
mm,
overall, I'm a good person. I
yeah.
try to live life in my best way of capabilities, supporting my neighbors, my community. Yes, I don't have much. Maybe I only have my $2 for my beans and rice.
Mm,
Maybe I just need to share a meal with someone. Let me share a meal with someone, and that's enough. The day that you decide to get that ice cream of $4, you will not feel guilty, because ultimately you've been helping out other people. There is a balance that we need to find between taking care of ourselves and spoiling ourselves, because that's part of us feeling fulfilled. That's a way of rewarding ourselves, or of everything that we have done in this earth, but also knowing that you did the best way, or you have done things in the best way possible to get those $4.
mm,
I think there's a sense of understanding that there's ways to go help people. And I want to say this before I forget: helping people does not necessarily mean giving money.
right.
um, uh, as a privileged person, I've learned that I put myself on this mindset, is like, it's my responsibility to share knowledge,
Yeah.
share what I have learned, share my everything that I have acquired. And there's two reasons why. A, if you want your community to grow, instead of complaining that they don't know any better or they're ignorant, well, why you don't share your knowledge? If you have some sort of information that you could provide to them, that give them enlightenment, or give them some food for thought, or help them to navigate something that they are having or struggling, why you don't just share that information?
Mm,
you
yeah.
know and the other thing is, I realized that who people who have experienced a lot of formal education, and people who have the opportunity to reach those world of intellectual life and enlightenment, and travels and discovery and all this kumbaya stuff, bring that knowledge that is so powerful, that transform you to be a better human, to those people who cannot reach it because they're still in the cave, based oddly enough at
Yeah.
the allegory of the cave. I just thought about it, but it's true though. And I'm not saying what I'm saying is correct, and I need to be very clear. I know I come very assertive, and I know I come off very intentional, very, like, this is a fact. No, what I'm saying is, based on my experience, this is what I believe. This is what I'm sharing my thoughts. It's up to you to choose and discern whether you want to accept my ideas or not. And that's called critical thinking. You
Mm.
end up choosing whether you want to accept my values or ideas. Um, and that's how you help people. You help people by helping them develop thought processes, by making them choose things more carefully, um, and showing people that there's different paths to go in life. And just because you come from a privileged background, it doesn't mean that you don't try to help or assist others. I think that's oh well, you don't care because I'm poor. Like, no, what are you talking
Mhm.
about? Or you're trying to do this because you want to help yourself to feel good. I'm like, or you want to write out taxes. You get my point. Like, that is not the goal. The goal
Yeah.
is for us, in a more very tangible. If I have a business and if I want to succeed, I need everybody in my community to be in the same page as me. If people are not in the same page as me, my business is not going to succeed.
Yeah. I love that. Also, I was just thinking about this allegory of the cave, which you shared with me on your podcast, which was so beautiful. And it's just this idea. It's kind of like the idea that some people are just stuck in this cave and they don't know what's outside of the cave, and you have to go meet them in the cave and help them come out of the cave. And we've been talking a lot about how this might be true for people who are in a maybe less educated, don't understand, need knowledge, need understanding. But I think it also goes the reverse. I think, like for me, myself, I am in the cave because I don't understand fully what the experience is like for people who have not grown up with privilege. Like, this is all that I know. And I think there's a lot of people out there like that who are we're in this cave where we're ignorant. We don't really fully understand the challenges and the stresses and the problems that are happening. And we need people like you and other people to come into our cave and say, this is what's really happening out here. This is, how can we, because we're in our own cave in that sense, so this has been really valuable, I think, for me, and hopefully for our listeners, to really start to think bigger beyond like your own little worldview of like where you are and what you're living in, and like see the world as a much more bigger and dynamic place, and that there's so much going on out besides what's in your own little cave, if you will, and to your point, like how can we start to have more conversations like these with people who've had very different life experiences than we have, so that we can become more aware of what's happening, and then in that case start to come out of the cave and say like, okay, here are some things I can do here to serve more, because if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. you know like, you don't know when you're eating your ice cream cone that, like sometimes there's so it's and it seems like the higher you get up in terms of socioeconomic status, it just you're I don't know it anyway.
Yeah, before I forget, I think there's two things I want to say. You're right. That's beautiful that you really expressed this in that view, because I have never even viewed that view before. I talk about a lot of other ergo. I never saw it the way you just expressed. So you taught me something today, very valuable, about something that I have always thought about it in one way. The other thing I was going to say to you was that, you know what's funny? We people that we go to privileged schools and formal education and whatnot, we think we're not like, we have this idea that we're less ignorant than the people that don't go to school, like, like that mindset of like, well, I went to
Yeah.
school, so I'm not that ignorant, or I'm very literate. I've learned that ignorance at its best, it's everywhere.
Mhm.
Meaning like you could be a highly well educated and you could also be very ignorant.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because a lot of it is from lived experience, right? What you've
Well,
been exposed to.
yeah, no, I was gonna say more of the willingness to be open to
Mm.
listen other other sides of the the other side of the stories, like the other side of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Ignorance comes when we ignore the other side of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it. Like, when you go to when you go to vacation, you could be in a place where you could see the drastic truth of a third world country. You go to, good example, Mexico. You go to Mexico, right? You could be in a 5-star resort, all inclusive, and you could be ignorant to the fact that maybe in the other side of the wall there's people that are not, they're starving because they don't have the food, but you're here splurging bananas and pina coladas and stuff like that. So ignorance doesn't stop because you're well educated. I was just gonna say that recently had this moment where, like, ugh, we are all always ignorant. We are always ignorant, and that's very humbling. The fact that we are always ignorant makes me think that I need to push myself to be more open to hearing out people. And yeah, I appreciate you because you bring so much insight to things that I say, but when you're expressing your ideas, makes me think that that is crazy, because I've been seeing this in one side and I thought I got it, and then comes someone else like, no, look, there's another side.
Oh yeah. It's interesting how it is on both sides, like when you really think about it, like the people who are born into privilege, they don't know what they don't know. Like you don't, unless it's very interesting. But anyway, I'd love to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about a woman in history who has inspired you. Who is it? And it doesn't have to be one. Is there a woman that you really looked up to in your life, or that you try to aspire to be more like?
To be honest, when you asked me this question first, I thought about my mom, and then recently it came up, Joan Arc.
Oh yeah.
So I will say my mom first, because my mom is someone who I thought we are very different. My mom's like, I'm water, she's oil. We're very, very different.
That can make for a beautiful thing.
But she, in her short period of life, because she's like only like 50 something, she has made more impact in our communities that I grew up in, people, and you don't notice how gracefully she is with society, like with people, not seeking for rewards, not seeking for validation. She just walks the path of, and I could see how it's so rewarding, not only financially, but also spiritual, body, human, that need that we always try to fill in our voids, our traumas. So she taught me the values of empathy and humility. I'm not always come across humbled, but that is something that she taught me. And maybe she's not someone you think like she's extraordinary. She didn't go and like Joan Arc, like complete opposite. She went and kill, and she did such great things in history. But she left a legacy, when you ask this question, I think about the legacy of a woman. In my eyes, my mom left a legacy of love, of care, that reaches more people, touches more people, spreads faster, and heals more than what you would imagine. And ultimately, it leads to a healthier society. Maybe not rich in money or bread, but rich in soul. So the way she walks that walk with empathy, with grace, with humility, says it all. Like it's to do the work behind, and being appreciative, that is for you to keep, not for people to know. That's, for me, that's her legacy, and that's the one thing that I'm like, I don't think people would even fool, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people like my mom, people will never recognize. She did not fight a battle. but she fight the battle every day for people, providing that safe space that we need more than ever. So that's one. And then Joanna Arc, it's I I was listening uh, a podcast called The Exorcist, and um, I'm very into build growing my life. I grow. There's things that I need to take care. My mental, my emotional, and my spirit. We're three in one. So I do listen to this kind of stuff just to open my eyes and try to listen different perspective of things. Again, I'm a Catholic person, so I think that I need to always continue grow my faith. But Joanne Arc, the reason why I like her, or I think where I am very passionate about her, is because of womanhood. So when Joanna came to our life, to the history, not only oddly enough talking about being humble, she comes from a humble area. She was a teenager that lives in the middle of nowhere. And she had visions and she heard voices, that saints that said, she need to go fight a battle. I'm trying to summarize the story. Because the point of for me to admire her, or remind me why I used to admire her, was because she as a woman did more things that nobody has done in the past. So when we talk about the Bill of Rights, when we talk about women rights and and voting and not voting, that came way later. It's like I'm talking, I don't know. She was in the 1429 more to, like, right, like, think about this. She did so much for the womanhood at that time, the bravery that it took to portrayed as a man and fight battles, afraid because he was only like teenager, like she didn't know any better. Go ride this horse and go fight, regardless of what was her intention, why life put her into that situation. If you look at solely as a woman, a teenager in that time, where women were not allowed to do anything, where women were perceived as objects, where women were perceived as incompetent, not intellectual, not smart, not strategic, not to mention not strong enough to fight someone.
Handle battles. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I now than ever, I feel like us women, we are going through our own struggles as womanhood. What is woman? What is not woman? What is transgender? Like you start going through all this crisis. It made me go back to her, because when I was listening to this podcast, it kind of hit me. That is crazy. This person fought something that she didn't even fully understood, and the reasons why, I mean, that's something completely different. But she's a teenager. The bravery, the resilience. Let's talk about the values of what it meant. Bravery, resilience, self-teaching, a strategic mindset, confidence. The level of confidence for you to put a armor that you don't know how to use it and go fight a battle at the beginning, and to showcase how good women could become if they thrive and they believe in themselves. Because ultimately she believed in herself. Ultimately she was like, oh, I can't do this. And to put and then lead the last battle that made a huge difference in history for can you not tell me what a woman is that teaches us something that we have forgotten about us? We have always worked so hard to show up in the man's world, and we have always been there. It's just we don't get credit, and that's fine. It's not woman. She was not looking for a credit. She was doing what she thought it was needed to be done, and for her, religious reasons. But even still, she showcased when women are committed, when the women believe in them, in themselves, believe in a cause, especially in a cause,
Yeah.
everything changes. And suddenly, no matter how many struggles and challenges you have, you will be where you're supposed to be in the time, at that moment in time. And so her and my mom are different, but at the same time are everything. My mom shows me the softness of a woman can touch hearts and melts and change people from their insides, basically from their souls. And Joanne Arc shows me how women strong, empowered, resilient, confident, even with their own, moments of weaknesses, I guess, in their journey, because I don't think that's easy to go and pretend to be a guy and start killing people for a greater good. Just saying. At that point in time, but the fact that she did that, it shows me we are more capable than we tend to think. We doubt ourselves too much, and
Yes.
especially when women are becoming mothers. I think that's the equivalent of this, where moms. I'm like, what? Mom, for me, moms are Joan Arc versus mom, with mesh with my mom, like of that idea of like when a woman has a cause, a passion, she will do anything to get that, and nobody will stop them.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. Also, I just love, it's just such a great example of how we as women have so much agency in terms of choosing the type of woman that we want to become,
Yeah.
right? Like we have, like you clearly have seen these great examples, living examples from your mom, but also this woman in history. And we can choose. We're not trapped. We don't like, we can look at these other women in history and men or whomever, and women, we have the gift of agency to say, that's what I want to be like. I want to show up that way. Those are the values that I want to incorporate into who I am as a person and how I show up in the world. And I just think that's such a beautiful example of how exciting it is that we have the freedom to be able to, any woman has the freedom to intentionally, with thoughtfulness, look at the people around them in their lives and say, I recognize that in this person. I love that about them. I want to be like that. And I can be like that too. There's
Yeah.
nothing stopping me, you know? So yeah,
I was
it's beautiful.
I was just gonna say, I want to wrap that up with the idea with the that I think everybody has this.
Mhm.
Women, we all have this. Like,
Mhm.
granted, if you look into a chart, maybe you're more empathetic, and whatever. But we all have this
Yeah.
values. We all have it's is within us. Normally, when people say you're searching for something that you think you're missing, it's actually there already. You're just too afraid to
Exactly.
recognize it and tap in.
Yes. Oh,
That's ultimately what it is. Like, how I see Nicole being a strong woman, passionate and
mhm.
caring, and very thoughtful. I can say that from you, and I could say I admire you. But then I'm like, it also feels slightly familiar. I'm like, yeah, of course it is familiar. It's within you. It just you
Yeah.
don't want to see it.
Yes. It's so true. We have to believe that it's there first.
Yeah,
And then to let ourselves unearth it, like if you want to be more courageous, it's in you. You can be. You can make courageous choices, and there's nothing stopping you from that. It's already there. There's no one that's going to tell you, okay, it's your turn, you can take that big risk now. Oh, I have permission now. Okay, great. Like, no, you can choose. If there's something that you really want that's scary and risky, the only thing that's holding you back from it is yourself. If you really, really want it, you can find a way to get there, like,
yeah.
no matter where you are in your life,
I
so anyway. Yeah.
I want to end this with sorry, a thought you just gave me about womanhood. Women can be anything. You could be an activist who goes and protest and fight for people's rights. But you could also be that woman who decides to take care for their family and their
Mhm.
kids. And
Yes.
that's also strong and brave.
Yes.
I want to end this because just because I'm looking at women that went out and fight battles, um, that doesn't mean it's not applicable for a woman who decides to stay and take care of their kids. I
Mhm.
want to say this very, 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 very intentional because nowadays we women, have these issues, but what's an empowered woman? And I would say that my two people taught me that I could be at home, I could be a mom, and I could take care of my kids. And that's very strong. That's very, very brave of me. And I could also be that woman that decides to follow a career, build an empire, build a business that provides money and food for others and as well for me. And that's also courageous. Whatever it is that you think is courageous, that's courageous.
Yes.
Don't let society define what is courageous and what's brave. But just remember, it's within you, how Nicole said, it's always within you.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. Like being empowered as a woman is having choice and being able to choose what it is that you want, whatever that may be. And knowing that if it's what you want, there's beauty and honor in it, whatever it is. And that's what empowerment is. It's not like empowerment isn't like, this is the pathway, you're going to come take over the world and be this powerful, successful woman. Empowerment is freedom. It's like choice to choose your own path and future in alignment with what your values are, because I believe everyone has a unique, like, destiny that they're meant to play in this world. And it's different for everyone. And the key is for you to like really tap into and really get clarity on what is your destiny? Like, what is it that you are uniquely meant to bring to this world? And that's so different for every woman. It's not going to be the same. So,
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a lovely conversation. Oh my gosh. I've loved every second of it, Marta. I could talk to you all day long. Let's just keep going. It's been so thoughtful. And this has been kind of a different topic than we normally talk about on the show. And so I'm really grateful.
Sorry.
No, in a beautiful way. I'm really grateful that we had this time for our listeners to kind of get this really great and important perspective. And thank you for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope the audience gets something of my rambleness. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And until next time, say hello, Moxie.
Thanks for listening to the Hello Moxie podcast. If today's story sparks something in you, share it with another woman who's ready to rise. Learn more about our community by visiting hellomoxie.us and discover how the Moxie method can help you reclaim your voice and lead with impact. See you next time.